Hello, everybody. It's so great to see you all. I know that we haven't been live for a little while. We skipped last time. So thank you so much for bearing with us. We've been so excited to be back with yet another episode. We're now on episode 17 of the Growth Invitation Season 2, where, as you know, in this season, I am committed to bringing on really powerful females from all around the world to share their stories of challenges and growth as an invitation and an inspiration to you all, so that no matter what happens to you, no matter where you are, what you're experiencing right now, you can always choose to grow and manifest your dream future, and your life doesn't have to stay in the same way as it is now. So today I am so excited to have the amazing Nicole with us today. Hello, Nicole.
Hi, Janette. How are you?
Amazing. Super excited to have our conversation today, because actually this one is for me, it's something that kind of touches upon something quite personal to me, as we're talking about, actually journeying through something that a lot of people fear, which is cancer. And so, thank you so much for actually being willing to share your story with us today, because it's something that I think a lot of people nowadays do experience, whether it's a loved one, whether it's their personal self, or someone that they know, a colleague. And so I think this is such an important conversation of how something like this, like an illness, can actually change our perspective in life. So thank you so much for being here today. And before we go any further, though, please do take some time to introduce yourself to our audience today.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Nicole Engelmann. I'm a personal branding video and photographer, and I've been that for almost 11 years now. I live in London. In terms of the branding photography, I work a lot with small businesses. Also, majority are women. But also some other smaller businesses or sometimes corporate headshots and stuff like that. So it's a real mix and variety across industries, which I really like. And yeah, I've been living in London for tomorrow 14 years. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Wow, amazing. And like myself and Nicole actually met through networking, and it was through you coming to one of my JWC events that we started having conversations. And but it was actually by chance that I found out that you had cancer, because you keep it so quiet, you keep it so something that is like as if it never happens. But actually it's through conversation with you, and we kind of dig deeper into more about lifestyles and mindset and everything that, and also through a post that I saw you post on LinkedIn earlier this year, where I was like, oh, you actually went through this experience. So I would love for you to actually share your story, about your cancer journey and how you actually navigated through it, and how it changed you.
Yeah, I do talk about it sometimes, but it's not like, hi, I'm the one with cancer or the one that had cancer. But I do sometimes randomly drop it when, like I said, when we talk about like some kind of lifestyle or things that we've gone through. It's like, oh yeah, I've had cancer like 6 years ago, and then blah 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 blah, blah. So it's almost like a footnote, I think, in a sense. But yeah, so in a bit of a kind of pre-story, I guess. So I've got lots of moles. That's just my skin type. I got that from my mom. So it's never been anything like major to me. But there've always been a few that are like, okay, they're a bit big, they look a bit weird. Maybe we can remove them and kind of see if there's anything going on with them. And I think so. 2019, I finally went to the GP and it's like, oh, well, can we have a look at a few? There were a few on my back, and then there was one on my thigh that was relatively new. I've only had it for maybe a bit over a year, but that was the one that really bothered me. So, it was itchy, kept like getting caught on like tabletops, or, when you undress yourself and stuff like that, you just kind of get caught on it. And that was the main one that I kind of like, well, please have a look at it. And then I got referred, and they removed, like, I think it was 4 moles in total, 4 or 5. And all the ones on the back that I've had literally for decades, they were all fine, but it was the one on the thigh that basically came back as malignant. And funnily enough, that was the one that the dermatologist was kind of like, oh, that looks fine. We don't need to remove it unless you want a scar. It's like, I'd rather have the scar because it's bothering me. And that was basically a saving grace, I guess, in a sense, because that was the one that was malignant. And then once I've got the diagnosis, which I kind of knew before I even went in, because I was on holiday and they called me, and it was way before I had an appointment to kind of go over the results. And they wouldn't tell me anything on the phone because I was not, they don't do it on the phone, they do it in person. But it's like, well, you're not calling out of the blue for nothing. So it's like, there is something going on. And then once I was back from holidays, obviously went into the dermatologist, into the hospital, and then they told me, yes, this one is cancer. At the moment, it's stage 2B, and there's obviously 4 stages. But we don't know if it's any more, because what they do, they only shave it off, so it's just the surface. So they didn't know if it goes any deeper, it has spread or anything. So I think from when they told me to when I had surgery, it was like 3 weeks. So it went really rapidly. Spent a lot of time back and forth to the hospital for tests and like pre things for surgery and stuff like that. And then I had it's called a wide local incision. Yeah. Where they take out basically all the tissue around the mole. So they took about an inch on each side on my thigh, and then also some lymph nodes to see if it has spread. And it was, I mean, the whole thing kind of, because I had to go back and forth like every week, they would call me in to get my results, and they didn't have the results. That was like 4 or 5, no, probably 5 to 6 weeks. I had to go every Friday thinking I get my results, and I didn't get them. And then I got my results, and they said, "Oh, it hasn't spread, so we don't have to do anything further." So that was a lucky escape. I did have some issues with one of the wounds that got infected, and was really ugly and really painful. So I had to go to A&E at some point because I couldn't walk anymore, and was crying because of pain and lots of things. So uh, I, I also did a mistake of going back to work 3 days after surgery. So I wouldn't recommend that to anyone. But I think it's one of those things that we just do as self-employed. We're like, well, I can't afford to, stay home all day, and I'm actually feeling fine. But yeah, I think I then got a high fever because I went out and did shoots, even though I took it slow. And that's probably also why my wound got infected, because it's obviously, because it was the thigh, the lymph nodes were in the groin. So there's a lot of movement, and obviously it's an area where there's bacteria going on. So that's probably my own fault that it got infected in some sense. And yeah, and then it just kind of, I think by end of November, I had the kind of knowledge that it didn't spread or anything. But I had to go basically to checkups every couple of months the first year. And then literally, 4 months later, COVID happened. So that's a whole other thing that then happened. Yeah.
Yeah, so well, thank you for sharing that journey. And I mean, like, you talk about it now as if it's like, oh well, this happened and that was it. It's kind of more like the process that went through it. But actually, what I would love to find out more about, and I think what's actually, I'm sure the listeners are actually interested, is in that space of time, because I don't think it was a very long time, was it? Like you said, a couple of weeks here, a couple of weeks there.
Yeah, I
So
think
all in
from
all, like, how long was it? And more importantly, like, what actually went through your mind when they told you, yeah, this is cancer?
yeah, um so when I first went to the GP, that was in May. The removal of the molds was in July. And then I still don't know the dates to be fair, on the 2nd of September, they told me I have cancer. And I think on the 18th of September, I had the surgery. And then
Mm.
I think it was something like end of November, like 22nd or something like that, where then they basically, yeah, I think around that time, or was it October even? Might have been October, yeah, where they told me that, yeah, October, November, something like that, where they told me that it hasn't spread. And then
Wow,
obviously
so
a
it
lot
was
of
a
kind
very,
of
very
appointments.
yeah. So actually, it was a very rapid fire couple of months, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
what
in general, I
actually?
think they have like the NHS is like from diagnosis to surgery, there is like a limit. Like they literally say it needs to be within, is it 30 days or something like that? So they are, or back then they were quite quick. Obviously with COVID, that has, changed a bit.
Mm. So what actually went through your mind when you found out that actually it was cancer?
Um, I mean, like I said, it was almost like I already knew before they told me. Because
Mm.
I'm not stupid. You're calling me before my appointment was due, and you're not telling me what's going on. It's like there is something going on. I basically went in there and said, "Well, there must be something," and I was pretty sure it was the one I was concerned about because the other ones I had literally since I can remember.
Yeah.
Um, so it was kind of, but it's still, it hits you, and it's like, okay, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, and um there's also, it's not just your doctor, there's also like some Macmillan cancer nurses, and I think it was 3 people were in the office basically because that's kind of procedure. um and I think I can't even remember, I just went home and then I cried a lot, probably for
Mm.
an hour and so on. Then I was like, okay, that's done now, so what do I do next? Who do I tell? It's like, basically I just told a handful of people that were affected by it. So I think it was, for example, my personal trainer, because obviously in a couple of weeks' time I can't do it for a while, or I might not even be able in the next few weeks because I have a lot of appointments. I told a couple of friends. I told the agency I work for, just so they know, things are going on and I might be out of commission for, a few days or a week or whatever. Um, and I wouldn't, like, I didn't even plan on telling my parents for a while, but because the
Wow.
surgery, yeah, because you don't want to worry them. So they're in Germany, I'm here. They can't do anything. But then because I got literally the appointment for the surgery like 2 or 3 days after I got the diagnosis. I was like, okay, I can't go into a surgery where I'm not an influence. I'm basically gone for like 3 hours, and if I have any reaction or anything goes array, even though it's a standard procedure for them, I don't want my parents to find out from a stranger that even happened. Um,
Mm.
so I called my mom. Literally, I think it was like 8 p.m. or something. She was already in bed, and said, "Well, this is happening. I'll leave it to you to tell Dad. Bye." Well, not really like this, but basically, it's like, do you think we should tell Dad or not? Because
Mm.
he's the kind of person that worries a lot and doesn't talk about it.
Mm.
So you don't want to, like, if a friend has problems, he can't sleep. So imagine if his only daughter has cancer and needs to have surgery. It's like, okay, I'm not sure if I should tell him or not.
Mm.
But yeah, she eventually basically told him the same evening or the next day, I think. But yeah, it was the people are told, they're like, "How do you sound so calm?" It's like, well, I just cried an hour or two. I think that's
Mm.
enough for now, and I don't want to. I don't want to worry about things that I don't know about. Like, what's the
Mm,
point in like worrying all the time that you're gonna die, or the worst case scenario, and what's the contingency? And it's like, well, but it might turn out to be okay. Like, it might literally turn out that it hasn't spread, because I went fairly early on, and insisted on things. So it's like, I don't want to, and I also didn't want this to define me. Like, this is something I have and I'm going through, but it's not me, if that makes sense.
mm,
And
I
that's also yeah, that's also the reason why I didn't tell a lot of people.
Yeah, I love that because actually, and now we're kind of like getting into the juicy part about like, the lessons that you learn because actually, yes, process wise, and I think, you're someone who is very um logical, and you're very put together, so you don't really, or at least you don't show that you get phased by a lot of things. You're like, okay, well, this has happened, okay, how can we move forward? And even though, yes, of course, you allow the emotions to run, you cry, you have your little cry, but okay, like once I've done the crying, okay, now what do I do about it? But as we were talking in the prep session for this episode, it's kind of like the way that it when you found it out, when you found out that you had cancer, there were a few things that you actually realized. And I would love for you to share more about what was it that you actually realized, but also you know your decision making process from that moment onwards. Like, how did you go about thinking about things, like
Yeah.
what's important and what isn't?
Yeah, I think it wasn't like a life-changing, oh my God, now I do this and I do that. Weirdly enough, obviously something like this puts things in perspective, and you're kind of looking back at things and it's like, actually, I'm fine. Like, I don't have any like major regrets. I've done the things I wanted to do. Like, obviously, it's like there's lots of other things I still want to do. I'm only 30, because this happened literally. I turned 30 in June and I got diagnosed in September. Um, and it's like, well, I've moved to London when I was 22, which was something I wanted to do since I was 17. I um, made my passion into my business, and I've been running my business for 5 years at that point. Um, and I just like did lots of things, went to concerts, went to, on holidays I wanted to, and um, just met amazing people. And I didn't have any regrets in that sense. It's like,
Mm,
oh, I wish I would have done this, I would have said yes to that, because the things that were important to me I actually did do say yes
mm,
and did do those things. So and that is the other thing, is literally I realized I'm actually not afraid to die, which is a weird thing to say. So it's like, because I didn't have those regrets, I was like, well, it's not that I want to die, but I'm okay. I was more, I think, concerned about parents and friends and stuff like that. But I think it was mainly my parents, because I'm an only child. So that was the only thing. Like, I'm afraid to die for them, but not for me, if that makes sense.
mm. Yeah, yeah, it makes total sense.
Mm.
Because actually, I think it was last year, I had a bit of it was a self-scare situation, but I had a little bit of a scare, a cancer scare. And then at that point I was like, actually, I'm not that afraid to die.
Yeah,
Just want to make sure that everyone else is sorted.
yeah,
Um, and then okay, and whatever, if something happens, I'll do what I can. Obviously, I want to stay alive, but if worst case scenario does hit, then oh well, okay, I've done my bit.
yeah,
It's my time. And I think that's actually such a great thing to have. So one of the things that you mentioned just now is, oh, I've actually done this. I don't think I'm going to regret anything because I've done all the things that I've wanted to. So is that something that you think you would have realized or thought about even if you didn't have this situation?
I think in a way I already knew that because people already told me like, oh, this is really brave to move to London on your own at 22. And it's like, that doesn't feel brave. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time. And everyone who knew me knew that this was going to happen. I'm not, in a sense, like very spontaneous. Like I have that idea or that wish, and then the next month I'm doing it. I do have to overthink stuff like bigger decisions and like think things through. But it's I usually do the things I really want. Because if I still
Mm,
think about it in a year's time, let it be a tattoo or, moving to a different country, if this is something that's on my mind for a long time and not just a flight of fancy, because that happens as well, then I do it. And I've always been like that, that if there's something I want to do and I've had a proper thought about it and it's not gone away, that idea or that wish to do something, then I'm doing it.
uh-huh. Yeah, and I think that's a great way to live because when you actually come to that point, you go, "Oh, what if
Yeah.
there isn't a tomorrow? Like, what if I'm not around for as long as I think I am going to be? Then what would happen then?" So I love that you live like that. What's kind of like something that you think um actually did change like from this experience? Like what were some of the lessons that you did actually learn um
I think,
through
yeah,
having it?
I think there was a bit of a domino effect in terms of looking after myself and doing more things for myself, and my mental health and like just personal development as well. So I think I'm 36 now, so I've literally officially been cancer free 5 years of 5 years in remission October last year. Um, and I think that's one of the 2 or 3 posts I've ever done about cancer was literally that in the last 5 or 6 years. And I think it's just, yeah, and I wouldn't even say that it was an active decision. Okay, now I'm looking after myself in a different way or whatever. I think it just gradually kind of happened. Also in terms of my business, because I work a lot with people in the well-being industry, coaches, yoga, breath work, um, and I'm quite open about those things. I definitely didn't grow up believing in those things, and okay, yoga was a sport, but it wasn't anything for your mind. Sound bath, oh gosh, breath work, oh no, that's hippie stuff. That's how it was like growing up, definitely in the 90s, coming from East Germany, with very practical German parents. But for some reason, I'm quite open about it. And I think that's the thing of like living in London and being exposed to a lot of things. And also literally being exposed to those things in my business. Um, so I got a bit more into that, had some coaching things going on, like could attend some of the things that my clients did, like breath. I did the first kind of breath work thing in 2023 because I basically went to a retreat that I photographed, and she was very open about me taking part on things. I was like, oh gosh, this has really opened something for me, and I cried like a baby in a corner after I took the photos that I needed. Um, but yeah, just I think that's one of the things that changed a bit, that I'm a bit more open to those things, and also not just open that I don't mind anyone doing them, but actually I'm open to doing them myself.
And what do you think it was that helped you along on that journey in terms of actually changing your mindset about these things? Because obviously, you mentioned having very practical uh, parents from East Germany, and we all know like there is a very, very like when we're talking practical, it's really like there is no such hippie things and breath work and sound baths is like what you're doing, just lie in
Therapy, oh my God. You want me to talk about my childhood?
there. So, it's kind of like actually, what do you think it was that actually helped you kind of along or shifted your perspective about these
Mm.
things?
I don't think I can pinpoint a moment or a certain thing. I think it's just a gradual thing, and in general, I would say we're probably, I mean, that's literally how life works. We are the evolution of our parents. So with each generation, we're more open about things. Hopefully, that's how it usually works. They are more open to things how I grew up in terms of how they grew up. That it's definitely like post-war childhood, or parents that literally lived through the war, even though they were kids. They didn't really, like, there wasn't lots of emotions going on. It was again very practical. Go through your day, blah blah blah. Um, do the right thing, kind of thing, and then um, they evolved from that. They
Mm.
changed. They saw what their parents. Not saying that they're bad parents or anything, but they saw, okay, this is something I want to do better with my own kids. And then it's the same
Mm.
thing, like me seeing things that I want to do differently. And I think again the cancer thing, let's say it this way, again opened that up, because it's like, well, what's the um, what's the problem? Like, just try stuff, just do it, because what's the worst that can happen? You can die. Haha, I've been through that. you know um, so yeah, but I don't think, like, it's one of those things where you look back and it's like, oh, I have changed since then, but there wasn't like a pivotal moment where it's like, oh, let's do this now. It just kind of gradually happened.
And I think, like, I'm I love that you can just go, well, okay, because you can literally talk about it in that way. Okay, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
well.
literally. Yeah,
It's like, well, I've been through this.
yeah, yeah,
And actually, I found out yesterday, having a conversation with you, that this wasn't the first time that, like, having cancer was not the first time you got very close to dying.
yeah,
And so, just being able to, rather than, oh, but because there are some people out there who'd be like, um, oh, but I had cancer, so now I need
yeah,
to be really careful, and I need to, and I was saying, I'm not saying that, it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's
yeah,
just that there are people like that. It's like, oh, but then I can't do this, I can't do that. Like, I know my dad is very, very careful around, what he eats, how much he goes out, and what he touches, etc., just purely from that standpoint. But he's almost got it constantly at the back of his mind, going, this
yeah,
is coming back.
yeah. Well, yeah, there's I mean, like you said, there's lots of people that had cancer or have people that are affected, and there's like 1 in 2 people has cancer in their lifetime.
Mm.
And also, once you've had cancer, I think it's you have a 20% higher chance of getting any kind of cancer again, because there
Okay.
are those cells in your body. Um, I mean, don't quote me on the number, but that's the number I have in my mind when I read up on it. Um,
Yeah.
but it's just, and like growing up, like my grandma died of leukemia when I was 2.5, and she was, I think she was 52 or 56, so quite
Oh wow.
early. Yeah, and as far as I'm aware, she had it for like decades and was dormant. And then again, 56 is not an age where you should die. Um,
Mm.
and like other, like I think my dad's uncle, he died of lung cancer. My grandma's brother had skin cancer. So there's there's been people with cancer around, and also like in recent years, like family friends had cancer or died of cancer. Um, so it is definitely around us. If you haven't had it, someone probably had it or will have it. Um, and again, I'm I think I've been really lucky, and I said it to you yesterday in our pre-conversation that I almost feel a bit like a fraud because I didn't have proper cancer. I didn't have to have radio or chemotherapy. I had a surgery, yes, with a bit of complications of my own doing probably, and it was a stressful time and an emotional time, but I've come out at the other end after like 3 months. Um, and I'm fine. Like, I didn't lose hair, I didn't lose weight, I didn't have to go in and out of hospital, and go to, and have my immune system shot. Um, so I feel very lucky in that regard.
Mm,
Um, and I had that conversation with someone before, because there's a charity where you can go to, where if you had cancer or a family had cancer, it's kind of like a community space. So you can just go there and chat with others. They do workshops and like lots of events and stuff. It's called Maggie's. Um, and I remember going there and talking to someone who's just literally, uh, different kind of cancer, but also just had surgery. And then that was it. She didn't have to have chemo or radiotherapy. And she said the same thing when I mentioned that I almost feel a bit guilty, or like a fraud. Not guilty, I think more like a fraud. That there's so many people that have to go through years of radio chemotherapy. It's coming back, or it's just very hard on you and your loved ones, and
mm,
we're kind of done within a couple of months and go on with our lives. um,
mm.
and she felt the same way. So yeah, it's probably for a lot of people that way.
But I think also, like, it's almost like a mini reset, in the sense that
Yeah,
having something that like that is quite shocking and very scary, especially when you're on your own,
yeah,
um, without your parents and around you, and actually going, oh, well, this is happening now what? Because it could swing so many different ways.
yeah,
But actually, the fact that you decided to go, okay, well, what am I going to do about it now? Like, how am I going to move forward with my life? Even though it was a small thing, it would have been disruptive, especially for a small business owner. You have to take
yeah,
time off work, you have to decide this, that, and the other. Like, what's the most important thing for you? And actually being able to go, okay, well, this happened, but I'm moving forward with it in a really positive outlook, even though
yeah,
you feel like, actually, I feel like a little bit of a fraud, but it did happen. It could have got a lot worse, because actually I was looking at it, I was looking it up online, and melanoma is actually something that, it says online, at least it says it's one of the most dangerous types of skin
yeah.
cancer, probably
It's
because
your biggest
you don't
organ.
notice it.
Yeah, it's your biggest organ as well.
Yeah.
um and it's, it's like, it's literally, you go out, and I mean, people were surprised when I told them, because it's like, you're the one that always avoids the sun. Like, I'm literally like a vampire, like, don't, because I just don't like it. And then I'm the one that gets it. I don't smoke, I don't really drink. Um but that's not how it works,
Mm.
and it can literally get to anyone. And sometimes it is, a lot of the times with melanoma, it is just a mole that's removed, and then, it hasn't spread if you find it early on, if you know what to look for. And
Mm.
I go every year to it's called mole mapping. So I'm going to the doctors, and they photograph me from head to toe and monitor all the moles I've got, to see if there were any changes from the past year. And
Mm.
usually that would be like done after you've got your 5 years remissions. But my dermatologist basically said I would recommend doing it, like, literally for the rest of your life, because of my skin type, because I have a lot of moles, and I'm
Yeah.
still quite young, so you still get moles. Um, yeah,
Yeah, and I think actually, from what you were saying as well, is just being aware of yourself. I think that's really important, like being aware of what happens to you, what's abnormal to yourself. Because, like
yeah,
you said, there were a few moles that, well, I had them for most of my life. Like, they've been there, so you know that they're not the ones. So yeah, well, we're actually coming up to the end of it. It's already like been half an hour. Can you believe? So it goes really, really fast. So actually, but I do want to ask you is, um, before we do close, what would be one thing, one tip or one piece of advice that you would like to share with the audience, it might be going through something similar. Maybe they have cancer, maybe they're just feeling like actually it's an illness that they've kind of suddenly found out. Like, what do you think is going to be something that would really help them in this
Mm.
situation?
It's actually two things, to be fair. One is specific to skin cancer, or in general, like, to if something is wrong, if something feels off, just go to the doctor. You know yourself. Don't think, oh, it's nothing. So just do it. If I would have said, oh, it's nothing, then I'm not sure if I would be here because I've waited too long. And
Mm,
I've also insisted on having it removed. Don't go to tanning beds. I hate that. That's literally asking for it. Sometimes, it's just like, don't do it. Don't do that to your skin. And in terms of like going through anything health wise, I think just take it a day at a time. Don't go
yeah,
to worst case scenario. Don't let that fear or that kind of, "Oh, what happens if," get to you, because
yeah,
you won't know what happens until you know what happens. And why That's how I live my life in general, but how I handled that situation was basically, well, I'm not wasting that energy on the worst case scenario, because if nothing happens, then I've literally wasted that energy and my mental health and capacity on this. And then it was fine. And then you might go out with something else because you've now like got panic attacks or something like that. It's not healthy, and it doesn't help you in any shape or form to go like, I'm gonna die. I don't know what's happening. What should I do next? Just take it a day at a time, and with any information you get, go from there. And that's, I think, for me personally, it's a way healthier way of living and going through things like that. You're still there, Janet?
oh, I think,
You
yeah,
froze for a second.
I think we just got cut off a little bit there. Oh, yeah, we're back. Yeah, so well, thank you. I just caught all of what you said. So thank you for sharing that. And you're so right. Like, it's something that I really believe in, is that we have so many different versions of life that we can project. Like,
Yeah,
there's so many different scenarios that we can never be 100% sure, no matter how hard we try, to be like, by doing this, I'm guaranteed 200, like 100%, I'm going to get to this. Or by thinking
yeah,
this, there's never that absolute guarantee. And as we all know, life likes to throw in some curveballs every now and then.
yeah,
Um, so I love how your outlook in life, and it's just like, what's the point of wasting your time and literally wasting your life away thinking about the worst case scenario, when you can actually choose to focus on being the present, actually projected a best case scenario even.
yeah. No, that's literally how I go through life. Like, even if bad things happen to me, I'm like, well, it could be worse. There's so many other ways something could go. I remember my dad picked me up a couple of years ago from the airport, and his car broke down in the middle of the motorway, and we just about made it to the, is it called the short hard shoulder, right? That's what it's
Yeah.
called. Um, on literally the German motorway. So this is a lot of, a lot of fast cars. And it was like the height of summer, so it was really hot, like 32 degrees, and we were stood there for 4 or 5 hours. Yeah, in the heat. And my dad is the one that's glass half empty. So he was like really grumpy. Why is this always happening to me? This is ridiculous. Why is this, so shitty? So many things, like, oh, what if you have to buy a new car? And the money. And it's like, we could have literally died. We could have not made it to the hard shoulder. We could have caused a crash. You could have been on your own. I at least had the internet with me, and like I had the patience to call the is it called AA, the auto people that help you get your your car off the road and stuff like that, and bring it to the
Yeah, yeah,
repair
yeah,
shop.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and so many things. Like I could check the update. He could have been with some elderly people that he sometimes goes on trips with, that no one
Mm.
has a, mobile phone that has internet, or and he could have been there with like three older ladies in their 60s and 70s, him in his 60s as well. And it's so many things that could have gone wrong. And it's like, we're here together, you have water in the car, uh and it's fine. Like, it's just like, yes, it's a half a day wasted, and we're getting a bit hot here, but it's something I laugh about now. And
Mm.
if I would have spent the whole day like miserable, it's like this is always happening to me, and why, that's energy that kind of, it's inside you, and it doesn't help you in any shape or form, and it would have made my day miserable. Not what
Yeah.
happened, but me making a big deal out of it and making it a, this is always me and blah blah blah. It's like, that's fine. Like, what's the deal? Life goes
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, totally, totally. I'm trying to find this quote that I have to post it in the comments after. Um, about, like, how basically a lot of the worst case scenarios actually just happen in our heads,
Yeah,
and I don't actually even like. And I am a very strong believer, and I think you are as well. Like, I call it the universe, but you might call it different. But like, I believe that the universe is always, has our backs and always has our best interest. And even when things happen, it's like, what can we learn from it? And it's just something that's so powerful in the way that it's like, okay, are you going to choose to be that glass half empty person, or glass half full, and just go, oh well, okay, actually, and it's not the worst case scenario when you came back to spend time with your parents anyway.
exactly. I had a bit more one-to-one time with my dad, even though he was grumpy the whole time. But I took a selfie. He looks so miserable, and I'm just laughing. He's like, I don't understand why you're laughing. It's like, should I cry?
Would you feel better if I cried?
Yeah,
um
exactly.
Yeah, I love that. So, well, thank you so much, Nicole, for actually sharing your story so openly, and even about things that we didn't plan to talk about, which was, actually feeling like an imposter a little bit, just because you didn't go through the whole like really hard chemo and the radiotherapy and everything. But at the end of the day, like, you literally, we might not have had this conversation. I might not have even met you
Yeah,
if you didn't actually understand yourself, know yourself, and go, okay, how am I going to go about this? How am I going to go about actually living my life now? And continue to choose to not live with regrets. So
exactly.
thank you for doing that. And thank you so much for actually sharing your journey. I feel really inspired. And even just thinking about, okay, oh, actually, oh, yeah, I do have a choice. Whatever is happening, whatever happens to us, we always have a choice in how we want to live and how we want to think. And so that's such a beautiful reminder. So thank you so much for your time today.
No worries. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
You are so welcome. And for the audience, thank you so much for watching. We did go a little bit over time today just because the conversation flows. And we would love to hear from you, of course. If there's something that you are going through, something similar, you would like to get some more advice from Nicole or myself, like, please do let us know. And what was your thoughts about this episode? You know, and what's your takeaway from Nicole's story? So everything you can think of, please do put them in the comments, whichever platform you're on. We would love to hear from you. And then thank you so much for tuning in, whether you're live or watching the replay. And so we will be back again in 2 weeks' time with another new guest of mine. So thank you so much for watching once again, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time. Bye.
Bye.